Good morning, everyone. Let us soon start our morning session. And just a couple of words. I hope you bring coffee and water or refreshments. This is our second day here in Jyväskylä and our commission meeting. And my name is Björn. I'm the head of Secretariat at Union Baltic Cities Sustainable Cities Commission. We have our office in Turku, and we are really happy to be here in Jyväskylä. And today, as you know in the program, I know I'm not coming in the. I hope I'm not in the stream yet. Happy to be here and focus on the biosphere task, and the intention is actually to start now past, because we are testing new technologies, the streaming technologies. So those unfortunate people who didn't have an opportunity to come to Jyväskylä have anyway a possibility to follow the discussions and so on. Our network has about 90 member cities in the whole Baltic Sea region, and one important element for us is to give an opportunity to people in different countries, in different cities, to participate in this in one way or another. Our speakers, you see a small cross on the floor, so we hope that you at least start from that point. It's here. And you are allowed to move around a little bit and breathe and so on, so just be normal with your presentation. So no extra fuss. Start with the 4 presentations. We'll have then a coffee break. It will be a technical break and so on. If we move then on both sides here, so and then back and out there. So otherwise, this is totally normal. These technical guys here are just part of the equipment, so don't bother too much. Let's start after a minute. Anna säg till när vi ska börja. We are starting our Thursday morning session where we focus on the dynamics of biosphere area development. And we have a really interesting morning here with 4 presentations, and then short break, and then we continue in the workshop settings. My name is Björn. I'm the head of Secretariat for Union Baltic Cities Sustainable Cities Commission, and we have our Secretariat in Turku. And yesterday we were focusing on resource wisdom and resource efficiency. Here in Jyväskylä we have representatives from the whole Baltic Sea region, and we are really happy to be here in Jyväskylä. Many of us are here for the first time. And the theme for today is then the dynamics of biospheres. The background here is that the Lake Päijänne Biosphere Initiative has an intention to submit an application for becoming the 3rd biosphere area or region in Finland. And they hope to have the application ready for next year. And for them, and this initiative, this meeting is really crucial and operative, and we hope to get ideas, proposals, recommendations, good contacts also for the application to be finalized next year. We look forward to the presentations, and we look forward to really active communication and discussions and recommendations and so on. And this session, the short session today, is not ending. We hope, and our colleagues in Jyväskylä with the initiative hope that this will continue really actively with our colleague organizations in or around the Baltic Sea. And our colleagues here from Sweden, Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania are always welcome to bring in new recommendations from their point of view. We also know that the biosphere concept is one concept, that we have several similar concepts surrounding the Baltic Sea region. So be open and also bring these experiences from different types of challenges or different types of campaigns and so on. There are no limits. We are just trying to make the best possible application for Lake Päijänne Biosphere Initiative and their upcoming application. I will actually give now the floor to Katja Bonnevier from the Archipelago Sea Area Biosphere Reserve in southwest Finland, and Katja has been around for many, many years working on with the similar task in the biosphere area in southwest Finland, our archipelago area. The floor is yours. Katja.
Thank you. This seems to work, yeah. And the cross I find here. Are you? Okay, hello everyone. I'm Katja Bonnevier, yes, from the Archipelago Sea Area Biosphere Reserve, working as a coordinator there. It's a biosphere reserve close to Turku. You will see later on a map more exactly where it is. I'm really glad and excited to be here today. Thank you for the invitation. I think I was also participating yesterday, and I think it has been very interesting to follow the discussions and presentations and learn more about the UBC and actually see the connections. I can see a lot of connections now really between these networks already. And as Björn said, I think we all know and will realize also during this day that we are many working with this same kind of issues and same kind of challenges are behind the work, and I think there is several programs for working with. So I'm sure you will also recognize and think when you hear about the biosphere research that but that's something that we actually also do, and this is what our network do, or like this, and that I hope we'll see as a strength, and just finding the ways of cooperating and using each other in that sense. So I've been working now with this Biosphere Reserve, a UNESCO program in Finland since 10 years, since 2007, been as a coordinator. The Biosphere Reserve is in itself is from '94, so it's already has been existing 20 years, established 20 years ago, more than 20 years ago. I also have a strong connection to the network of NordMAB, that is the Northern Biosphere Reserves, who are cooperating, been active in keeping that NordMAB network also alive and having activities together. So I will a little bit, I was asked to talk about biosphere reserves in general, also trends and challenges enlightened by examples from other biosphere reserves. I will both talk about the Archipelago Sea, but quite much trying to lift up experiences from other northern biosphere reserve or Baltic Sea, from the Baltic Sea region. What else I could say? Yeah, myself, I'm a biologist from Helsinki University, and have actually moved to the archipelago because of a job, which is quite rare. That's very seldom happening, that it's the opposite. Quite often people are moving away from the archipelago, searching for jobs and hoping to return. But really, this was the reason why I found that region. And I'm now settled on the island of Korpo, if someone knows the archipelago. Korpo is in the middle of the Biosphere Reserve. So what is a Biosphere Reserve? I will start giving you a short introduction to the MAB program as well, because I assume many of you are not really much into what it is. Some of you, of course, I know as well are working with Biosphere Reserves, but a short introduction also. And I guess depending on the target group, who you are talking to, there are several ways of how to present what the Biosphere Reserve is. I chose now to use this slogan that the UNESCO MAB program have wanted to use for the UNESCO Biosphere Reserve's site of excellence. This I would say that one important thing I want to lift up with this is that it's based on a program based on knowledge. It's a research program for UNESCO, but the main thing is knowledge is in a very central role, and not only the scientific knowledge, the traditional knowledge as well. We want to lift up the role of the traditional knowledge in finding the solutions, the sustainable future solutions for the societies. So this is a very important part, the knowledge-based work. But also I want with this lift up that it is a designation of a UN organization UNESCO, and it's something to be proud of. We want to also to spread this feeling locally that this is something very, very good. It's natural and cultural values that UNESCO, based on them, that UNESCO have decided to do this designation, and a lot of hard work for the cooperation, the local, the regional cooperation for sustainable development that are behind this designation, and it's something to be proud of. It's something big. It's not that known as the natural heritage areas or cultural heritage areas of UNESCO, and that's why I specifically want to tell this, because it's also there's reasons for lifting up this. So the biosphere reserves, what are they? I already said that natural and cultural values are an important role of biosphere reserve. It's not about nature protection in itself. The biosphere reserve, there always has to be an area inside the biosphere reserve that is protected, or several protected areas. But they are not results of the biosphere reserve in itself. They're supposed to be in the core to show that there is the natural values that are important, but they are not a result of the biosphere reserve itself. The biosphere reserve is a learning site for sustainable development. It's a place where we want to work with sustainable development. It's a place for education, for knowledge, for testing new solutions, new sustainable solutions, new approaches. It's a platform, a neutral platform for communication. It's a place where it's representing many interests and many stakeholders. It's not for one interest group. It's a neutral platform for communication and cooperation for sustainable development. And it brings with it possibilities, only possibilities, no restrictions in itself. Some countries it might be mentioned in the law, most countries not, but it doesn't have anything to do with the protection of areas. That's not the idea with the program, which easily can be misunderstood. As I said, UNESCO program, it's called MAB, coming from man and biosphere, ihminen ja ympäristö, människan och biosfären. We are talking about biosphere reserves. I heard already here different variations, and that's really okay. In other languages, we have decided quite often to translate it to biosphere regions, biosphere areas. Since reserve, as you maybe also have noticed, it doesn't really signal maybe what we want the word is not maybe the best, but in English that's the official word for biosphere reserves. It's an old program since the 70s. I would say since the beginning of 70s and not the beginning of 70. And has been developing since then. The beginning, it was more focusing on nature protection actually and research. It's a research program, but has been developing a lot since then. And it's a very active and flexible program. Now focusing very much on what this sustainable development and how to work with societies in finding solutions for local solutions, but also with global perspectives. We have a network, and that's maybe the special characteristic of this program, that there is actually physical areas that we are working with, biosphere reserves, that are supposed to be these model regions for sustainable solutions. We have now today 669 biosphere reserves in this global network in 120 countries, and this is growing year to year. Of course, some are also falling off and are not really continuing the work as a biosphere reserve, but mainly it's a growing network, and that's a special thing, and I think that's a very important part of this being a biosphere reserve, that you really have this network for sharing experiences, and of course a global network can be quite huge to work with. So there is several different smaller networks, regional, thematic networks, and NordMAB, like I said, that's also both a regional and thematic network. So biosphere as a word is about everything living on the earth. That's what it's including. Not also the human being, and not only also that's really what is in focus for the biosphere. So the man, the relationship between the man and the nature, with a focus on the humans in the region. Here is from the archipelago sea pictures, but that you see the whole what all it is about. As I said, it's a platform, and it's, you can see it as a meeting point for many things, like the scientific and traditional knowledge are already lifted up, but also the different interests. That's a very important thing, actually, that it's a platform you can work with different interests. Man and nature, local and global. You have both the local and the global perspective, since you are working in the network. Economy, ecology, and culture, everything a biosphere reserve do, work with all these perspectives, see the issue from all these perspectives, and that's the important thing with the work of a biosphere reserve. And working with both modern and traditional solutions. Remember these both, taking the advantage of the traditional knowledge you have in the region. But not to forget, I will say this is also something that had been mentioned several times yesterday, the individual, the people in the region. We said this is in focus really for the biosphere reserve, how to work with the people. Of course, the children are a group that are especially important, since they might have the future in that region, still many years being active in that region, and maybe in positions that are important for the development. I would say a very important thing to take into account is the local identity and the sense of belonging, the sense of identity in the region. That's not something that you really need to strengthen with this concept also, that many of the children living there can't really open, maybe, or I would say all the people don't really open their eyes for all these valuable things, and it's very strange for them to see that, oh, what is so special with our region? Why do we have some international designation here? So I think this is already the first step to spread this information and really make them feel that this is something we are also proud of. Whoa, we are designated with a UNESCO program, and here we have in this picture we're working with the children cleaning beaches on an island, and that's an important task they are doing. But at the same time, we have the news channel from Japan visiting the biosphere reserve, interested in how we are working, and we decided to combine this so that they would interview the children and see what they have to say about the biosphere reserve. And I think this is very important, because this was, of course, huge thing for both the children and other people. Why are they coming from Japan here? What have we here to show them? And to realize that, whoa, they are really interested in what we are doing here. This is something to be proud of. And this happened many years ago, and now, just a few weeks ago, I met this same girl in a course about sustainable development in high school, and she was participating there, and I was really happy thinking that I think she really feels that this is an important issue. It was about our archipelago and sustainable development, and she wanted to continue study these issues, and that's an important work. So the archipelago sea I'm representing, I show here you a picture that I got help from some students to show what it's about. We have the everyday life there, but we also have the globe with the global network and the global perspectives, and I think it's genius. It's three boys that have done this together, and I'm happy that they got everything in one picture. And here you see the map. It's an archipelago area. As you see, it's very dense in islands. One of the densest amount of islands in the world, probably, as a biosphere reserve. It's not including all islands from the region. We have about 40,000 islands, 50,000 islands in the whole. But inside the biosphere reserves, I would say, I don't know really, but 10,000, 20,000, something between that. So main point, it's a very special area because of that. I will not go, I don't have time to go very much into it, but I just show you, you can see that there are some borders, or different borders, and this is the way of how you plan the biosphere reserve. There's supposed to be 3 zones, and we have the core area with the national park. As I said, there has to be protected areas in the core, and then we have a buffer around that, and the developmental area around or outside of that. And that's maybe what I would say, that's where we are focusing the most. Our work, the Biosphere Reserve, is focusing on the development, the cooperation area of the Biosphere Reserve. We have 2 municipalities inside this, the Chimitoön, this part, and the Pargasstad on the other. Okay. Every Biosphere Reserve has their own challenges and own needs. And although we have, Toomas will speak here later today, and he will talk more about the MAB strategies. We have strategies for the whole MAB program, the action plan for the program, but every Biosphere Reserve puts up their own agenda based on the challenges that you have in the region. And here are some of the challenges I lift up from our region: the eutrophication of the sea, the Baltic Sea, the condition of the sea is of course something that is concerning most people. Unmanaged cultural landscape, it's about the high biodiversity. That's the hotspot of biodiversity in Finland, actually, the semi-natural meadows that have been managed by man since decades, since centuries, by animals grazing and taking food for the animals. They are very rich in biodiversity. Then we have a decreasing population that is a huge issue, especially on the small islands where there are less and less people living on the small islands, getting empty, and that's also affecting, of course, this management of the meadows. So these are all combining. The biodiversity loss is also combined with the loss of people in the region. I also show you just that we are working, these of course the UN goals for sustainable development, and they are also for us behind the goals we are putting up are connected with these goals. Based on those challenges and needs, we have defined 5 different themes, focal points that the archipelago sea is working with, and these are the ones, the cultural landscapes, very important both for biodiversity but also aesthetical, social reasons to manage, keep them open. Water conservation, nature tourism, it's about how it's possible to live in the archipelago, find livelihood, housing and livelihood as an own theme, and quality economy and branding. Quality economy is an old-fashioned word already, but you know what I mean, all kind of economy, local economic questions that are based on sustainable premises. And these are the 5 themes. And now to get to the examples from the different regions and these trends and challenges, I'll show you that I told you I've been working with the NordMAB network, and I will also, they are almost more or less the same as the Baltic Sea, the Baltic countries, a few more. We have Canada involved nowadays, and Russia also. We have from Lapland 1 biosphere reserve, and 2 from the Russian Lapland, and 2 from Canada. But otherwise it's quite focused on the Nordic countries. We have 2 biosphere reserves in Finland. They're both quite tall. We have 1 in Estonia and 1 in Latvia. In Sweden, there is now established many new biosphere reserves during the last 5 years. So it's really an interesting new input into this network at our Nordic network. So it's a growing large interest for biosphere reserves. We have now 5 biosphere reserves established there, and 2 candidate biosphere reserves that are about to do the application. In Finland, you could probably also call the Päijänne a candidate. In Sweden, you use the word candidate when it's actually already approved by the state that you're gonna, okay. And then in Norway, we have 1 candidate, and Denmark is not mentioned. So I want to, with a few statements, I want to lift up some examples. It's not about restrictions, rather about development and cooperation for sustainable future. So this is something I repeat all the time. And I can give a few examples. One is this with working with the semi-natural meadows. That it's about protection, of course, it's about preservation of the region, but it's something you need the man, and you need a cooperation with the local society to do this work. And it's very important to also, it's a hard work and a quite often voluntary work for the farmers to get out their animals on the small islands. You have to find something, economical benefit in it as well. And that's why it for the biosphere is interesting. It's a whole package of both ecological and economical benefits of doing this work. Here you can see what it means to go out to the islands with a few animals to every island. I have to a little bit rush because of the time. Then I want to show you this example, interesting in Norway, the candidate area, Nordhordland candidate biosphere reserve, north of Bergen. It's a huge area, including quite a lot of different kind of landscapes, everything from mountainous to down to the sea. And a very special, interesting thing is that also including the Troll Island with the oil platform, and therefore has quite a wide perspective. This is showing that the biosphere reserves are really working with not only nature values, nature areas, pure areas where you almost untouched areas. They're working with businesses, they're working with the industry to find the sustainable solutions. This is a refinery of oil inside the planned biosphere reserve that actually has the highest amount of carbon dioxide emissions in Norway. So it's a huge challenge, and they are in this work now, and they are very interested to get the biosphere reserve. So you see, it's not a threat of getting restrictions. It's more about finding the goals together where we want to come. And here you can see the same area. Then I want to lift up that we are really working with raising awareness, education, and being the platform, arranging these kind of discussions for getting the stakeholders together. And that's important for all the biosphere reserves. Then another statement that gets to this has to do with the trends. So I was to talk about trends in the biosphere network. Different ways of strengthening the local economy. This is really something that the MAB program is now encouraging us to work with partner programs, to work with branding, even certification of products, local products, to take the step closer to the private sector. And there are several examples I will shortly. This was for the North Karelia, the other biosphere in Finland, on the northern border, the eastern border to Russia. And they have now established a program for Kumppanuusohjelma partner program, which is a very important thing to work with the different, both the municipalities. There is a Joensuu Kaupung, the city of Joensuu, is one partner, and then we have these tourist companies. This is something many biosphere research now are planning. We have also plans to start up some kind of partner program. We are all a part of the Biosphere Reserve, and everyone is doing their own role, and this is important with the partner programs. In our region, we have been focusing very much during the last year on artisan food, how to get more people to work with. We have a lot of primary production, but not very manufactured products. We got very hooked on a concept in Sweden called Mathantverk, and we got back with a lot of our local people or enterprises who were super eager that now we have to do something similar. And now we have, since 2013, been running some educational programs for artisan food together with a larger region, in coastal Finland. So it's not only the Biosphere Reserve anymore. And even arranging large competitions, Finnish championships, where Järki Särki from Jyväskylä actually was winning a prize last autumn. So this has been a very important, and this is in the whole network of Biosphere Reserve. The artisan food is a good way of working with the local economy. And then a third example of this from the Lake Vänern, Kinnekulla in Sweden, where they have been working with social entrepreneurships. How can the Biosphere Reserve generate more social entrepreneurship? And it's about companies working in a way where they invest, although extra money they get, they invest in ecological and sustainable social sustainability. These are two examples. For example, a school was about to close down, and a parent kind of cooperative decided to continue the school together run it together, the parents, and this is one example for how you could do it. And the other one is a man from the region who decided, hey, there's a lot of young people without work during the summer. What can I do for it? And he started up with project money a museum, and then it's about mining in the region, and then he was employing the young people working in the summer. So this is the kind of social entrepreneurship that you can find in many regions, different companies that are actually doing this, or other type of organizations. And a question interesting for Päijänne maybe as well, that could this be a model also? Could you run a Biosphere Reserve? Could it be like the organization function as in this way as a social entrepreneur? I will get just with a few words also to the organization. I'm sorry I'm going a little bit over time, but I think Björn told me I can use a few extra minutes. This is an example from our region, the foundation of Archipelago of Åboland, established in the connection with the Biosphere Reserve, also a social entrepreneur in the region, investing in the living and livelihood on the small islands where people are moving away, buying up properties that they can rent to young families to move out to the archipelago, since otherwise these properties would be sold to people who use it only summertime. So this is also a way of doing it. I will not talk. And then the last point about organization, and that I could almost call a challenge, because it's always, you have to find a good way of running the Biosphere Reserve, and there is a lot of different ways of doing it. I think the most important that it's an organization that is pretty flexible, and it's open for cooperation. The whole idea is that there have to be room for everyone to participate. You have to get the feeling, spread the feeling that it's important what everyone in the region is doing for the sustainable development and for the Biosphere Reserve. So to find a way to include. And in our region, we do it like this. We have a Biosphere Reserve office run by 2 municipalities and the ELY Center, that is the environmental authority, together. And it's actually, the office in itself is run by Pargas, the town of Pargas. It's located in Korpo physically, and but it's a cooperation between these partners. And then we have a steering group with members from different of the important central stakeholders. It's like the board of the Biosphere Reserve. In that board, we also have inhabitants representing the municipalities. And then we arrange these unofficial forums. Every winter, we have a winter forum that is open for anyone to participate and come with ideas and activate in the planning of activities. Of course, we have the UNESCO program behind us, and we have the ministries on the state level. highest up I have the box with the partners, and they are actually the ones doing the activities. They are the ones running the projects. We don't have, the Biosphere Reserve office in itself can't really run projects because it's just a part of many, the organization of many partners. So we always have to find where to locate the project, who is going to run. And I think in one way this is a positive. It has challenges, but it's also a positive thing because that is activating the partners to be involved and do something together for the Biosphere Reserve. Other that was my last slide. Other examples, I will just shortly say that there is actually quite many associations in Sweden, and that's also an interesting way of doing it, that you have also association for the Biosphere Reserve that can also include these different stakeholders as members of the association, the municipalities or whoever who wants to be involved. I want to highlight one example also because they're so different. The organizations can be, depending on what the issues, the reasons why you have established the Biosphere Reserve can also, of course, also affect the organization, the structure of it. But we have quite, some of the Biosphere Reserves are really started up because of a conflict in the region. And they have find a good way of using the Biosphere Reserve as a tool for working with this conflict. And for example, in Sweden, we have the Östra Vättern, how you say, the East Vättern Sharp Landscape in English, the name, Östra Vätterbranterna Biosphere Reserve. And there, everything started from a long conflict. During 20 years, there had been a conflict between the forest associations and the nature preservationists and the public authorities, doing a lot of, not being, how you say, the public authorities were doing inventories that were poor. They were thinking the preservationists that they are poor, they are not really doing good for the protection, and then again the landowners were a little bit afraid that, hey, what is this going to be lead to if they find valuable regions on our land. And after arguing and being in conflict 20 years, they were actually establishing a project group, a working group together, who worked with these issues and learned to communicate and learned to the mutual communication, to listen to each other and do it together. And this was the start for the Biosphere Reserve. They were making then, after finding the way, they were making to work together application for a Biosphere Reserve. And it's still the organization and the structure of the Biosphere Reserve is quite much based on this. And the same stakeholders, the forest associations and everyone, are in this steering group in the board of the Biosphere Reserve. Okay, I'm sorry, taking much time. I had a lot I wanted to share with you, and I'm very happy if you ask me more when you have a chance, not maybe now, but later.
All right.
Good luck with the Pioneer Initiative.
Thank you, Katja. Well, we got a big package of information about the whole concept and the background and all the elements that is involved here. And at least I brought up in the beginning here that, I mean, how important it is for all the biosphere areas to build up the profiles and really find your values. And I remember from my own work also with working in different countries with different cities. And that is that actually, I mean, we as cities, we don't really always know how good we are on some task, or how really valuable, let's say, work we do, or how fantastic nature we have, or how fantastic city structures and so on. So I think this is at least one of the signals I think that now you should take to your Pioneer Initiative and see it. Just going yesterday evening on with the boat to Särkisalo, I mean, it's really fantastic. I've been here 20 years ago on a similar tour and so on, but really this is a concept to build further on. So thank you. But I think we will go on now, and as you noticed, Katja has a lot still to tell and so on. So I just reminded that grab her under the workshop session and continue the discussion after the session.
There are
now
some brochures and stuff on that
yeah.
table if you want.
Yes. And yes, I'm guilty for this time, Olaf, so that's no problem. But now we continue to Sweden to Magnus Larsson, is the deputy mayor in city of Karlskrona, also archipelago area. And you have been running it quite closely with the colleagues here and also working on the international board. I think these are good elements that, I mean, all of these biosphere areas are a little bit different. They have their own characteristics and so on. And of course, it's to learn about the good practices, but also some mistakes and so on. But Magnus, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. It's nice to be here. And I want to thank Katja. It was very interesting to listen to you. It's not easy to coming after you after this splendid introduction you made. But my name is Magnus Larsson, and I'm coming from the municipality of Karlskrona in Sweden. I am a deputy mayor there, and my responsible areas is firstly environmental and building issues, issues regarding the countryside, the archipelago, and also then this biosphere area. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about the work with the Biosphere Blekinge Archipelago. Oh, as you see here, we have a map over Sweden, and we are talking about this area. And we can really say that we have a string of UNESCO status from Kristianstad here to Öland, the south part of Öland, Ölands södra udde. We are biosphere area, we are World Heritage area, so I think we have a unique combination in this area of Sweden. So the Blekinge Archipelago, we are 3 municipalities, Karlskrona, Bonnevier and Karlshamn, including in the area. And we also have the local authority. It's called the Länsstyrelsen in Sweden. Myself, I'm from Karlskrona, and I live out here somewhere in Toram. We also have Anne-Marie, who is a developer of the countryside, and she also lives there. Exactly, my home is in a small place here called Rome, just like in Italy. I think the background is when you came down here through a small road, the landscape will open up against the sea, towards the sea, and the original word was probably Rome, more, yes. And for several years there was a competition in the Swedish radio or maybe in television. The winner get the prize to visit Rome, America, and Paris. It showed that all these places are in this countryside, so I don't know if they were so happy in the end. We started the Biosphere area, the work in 2011. Oops. And the background was that the local authority wanted to protect the marine life, the nature in Blekinge, and they started to talk about maritime reserve. And many of us got a little bit afraid for that. The focus was on protection, forbid things that were not allowed, and we started to think, can we do anything better together? And then we find this team, the Biosphere area, that also have a support part, the development part, and that was the way that we worked together. And there was also really from the beginning a big acceptance among people and company in this area because this was an opportunity instead of a threat, as they said they thought the maritime reserve could be. The area is 210,000 hectares. I don't think we have not 10,000 islands as in Finland, but there are several of small islands in this area too. We have 37 nature reserves in this area. 72 what we call Natura 2000. It's EU areas. Altogether, we have 85,000 invitations, and 4,000 of them are living in the archipelago. Traditional people have lived at fishing, agriculture in small scale. We have high landscape values with meadows, small islands, bays, shallows, wooded pastures, and so on. Yes, I think I will see the next. And as I said, we've seen this as a possibility to sustainable growth and development. We work a lot with to spread the knowledge about our biosphere area. It had an impact of the building and the growth for our municipality. And we also work to create business opportunities within this biosphere area. What will we then do to spread knowledge about the area? Well, we have worked to educate ambassadors and also mini ambassadors in school, people in the area who can talk good about the biosphere area. They are living in the area, many of them. They are having companies in the area, and they are willing to do guidance, to do a lot of work with the biosphere area. So I think this is a really good thing to use if you are going to start your work with a biosphere area. We educate staff at the Tourist Information Office. We have it in our guided Karlskrona city tours. And we are also working with a common UNESCO center in Karlskrona. Yes, here you see the central part of the city of Karlskrona. I don't know if you have been there. Otherwise, you are welcome. A few years ago, we did a sub-area amendments for the archipelago. And this will also be reflected in the work with the biosphere. We have a program for rural development. We also connect that one to the work with the biosphere area. And the same for the municipality's planning and the building of infrastructure.
Can you explain a little bit what do you mean by sub-area amendments?
You can call it a detailed planning for the archipelago. We have met the associations and people living in the area, and they had presented important things that they want to see happen in their neighborhood. And then we did a plan for this to develop service centers and so on, and then we take it into the planning in the municipality also. So the local associations and the local people is important role in this. So we are taking the points they have with us in the work, and that's really a really important thing. As I mentioned, we want to create business opportunities. We are working with a brand for the archipelago that companies, local companies could use. We think that's a good thing in their work. We are in the political way. We have a strategy to market and develop the area of UNESCO status. And we also now have a big project. We call it the Archipelago Route. I will come back to that. We also do different kind of promoting solutions, also package to effort visitors. It could include accommodation, fishing, paddling, and so on. As I said, the big project that we are working with now is the archipelago route. We really had, I think, 14 or 15 million that we will spend on this project totally. And the purpose is to enhance availability by network of tracks and travel opportunities. And the main purpose is to support business and make the BBA accessible. Oh, I think I go back. I really can mention that this work with the route started 2017 and it will continue to 2019. It's two parts. One, we can tell, is developing software as services connected to the companies, maps, app, and so on. And one is more the hardware as wharves and developing harbors and so on. And this will include a route for kayak, bicycle, sailing for walking people. And there will be service centers where you can eat, live, and there are things to do in the biosphere area. So this we have just started with, and we think this will be really good. And the money, this is project money, so I can say we have some of them are from the Authority of Growth in Sweden, and some of them are locally money from the municipalities and the local authority, and we also use leader money, EU money for this work. And that is a way to get more out of this. So you don't, as Katja said, it's hard to find the money, the investments money for the municipalities in itself. So you must find a way to search projects and so on where you can find investment monies to develop the area. As I think I have tell you a little bit about this. Then, as T earlier said, there are challenges in this work. When we are ready with the archipelago route, we have new service centers, we have built toilets and so on, and we need to have animals to keep the landscape open. So there are a lot of work with maintenance that we will have in the future. So that's something that we need to solve, and we are working with a project on this too. Of course, there are conflicts of interest. Not all people are liking animals at the islands. Cows could be dangerous, some of them think. And as I said, we are several parts in this work, so there is a risk for unclear rules. I do a small contribution to the work myself. I have a very few cows, but they're working with to keep the landscape open. And so far, they haven't been dangerous, at least. But as Katja said earlier, we must do this together, and that's the way to reach success in this work. That's an overview over Karlskrona. As you see, the city is built on islands. So it's a challenge sometimes. And I also want to tell you about a new thing coming up in Karlskrona. We call it the Baltic Meeting Point. It's a new forum dedicated to Baltic cities, a change in business development, cooperation and networking, learning and understanding. It is an initiative to develop and encourage the exchange and cooperation between Karlskrona Twin Cities and Baltic region on an annual basis. And I hope you can come. You're all welcome to visit Karlskrona. You have the dates, Lottie. I look at you. 2nd to the 4th of August. It's the same time as we have a big archipelago party in the town. And I think you have invitations that we can spread in different ways. And if you have any questions or something, you're free to contact us. It's me, Magnus Larsson. We have Lottie Dahl Ryde with us and Anne-Marie Nordström. And I think that was the presentation I have.
Okay,
Please feel
thank
free
you.
to come with questions or something.
Thank you. Do we have any immediate questions here to Magnus? Or shall we continue? I think this was good, and you also bring up the same challenges as Katja have, and I think that these are quite common. So going through and figure out how to solve this are important for the applications you make here, and make it more concrete and find the solutions here. And then of course the invitation now to Karlskrona in beginning of August. I think it's a perfect time to be in Karlskrona.
Absolutely. It's always the perfect time to be in Karlskrona, but especially in August.
So now you have some perhaps changes in your holiday plans and so on, but I have personally not been there yet, but plan to be there this summer. Now we move further on to Estonia, to Toomas Kokovkin, who has also been working for a long time with similar tasks and so on. So please, the floor is yours.
Do you hear me now? Yes. Good morning. Thank you very much for yesterday, for the evening, for the trip, and for a possibility to look shortly at your future Biosphere Reserve, which in my opinion is very inspiring and very good. It will be a very good and very interesting Biosphere Reserve. And congratulations for a good selection of presentations this morning. I see that we can cover different angles. Katja, who is a person who is working day to day in the Biosphere Reserve. Magnus, who is representing the municipality where the Biosphere Reserve is located. And I will try to give another view, which is probably more philosophic or more background view of the program of Man and Biosphere. And because I have been working with the program for 27 years now, so I think I have my personal opinion as well, and I can tell also my personal opinion, not only the, so to say, official one. I will try to give my personal view as well. Currently, today, I'm employed and working in the island of Hiidenmaa, Hiiumaa, Daagö, and I work with the Foundation of Local Museums. I'm director of the local museums, so I'm mostly working with the cultural heritage today. But I have been, as I said, for 27 years, been working with the program of Man and Biosphere, and I have been really working in the Biosphere Reserve, in research, in science, and now I am a member of the UNESCO Advisory Board in Estonia. So I contribute to the Estonian National Commission of UNESCO with the MAB topic. I will try to squeeze my speech into three main topics. One, about the program, which Katja already covered a lot. Second, about the new strategy, which is less than 2 years old, and something about Estonian experience as well, which is not the very shiny experience. First thing which I want to emphasize, when anybody tries to establish a biosphere reserve, there is always a problem with local understanding. And I know that it is also the case here, that what are you planning to put here? Again, you bring us some new protected areas. We don't need them. And for some reason, I don't know why, still the understanding that the Biosphere Reserve is a nature conservation area which puts restrictions on people. It is still existing. Every day we try to explain this is not the case, but still people think that this is the nature conservation area. That is why I want to tell you that this concept of biosphere reserves is the concept and nomination from UNESCO. You know it. UNESCO is the organization or sub-organization in the United Nations which purpose is for science, culture and education. This is not the organization for nature conservation. So what we can say easily in the very beginning is that biosphere reserves are the areas where local life and, of course, local nature are approached by the means of science, culture and education. So the focus is on the human aspect of the territory. Even if we speak about nature conservation, about sustainability, we speak about the human aspect, which is science, culture and education. For some reason, and I am not happy about this, the program Man and Biosphere through the years has tried to mainstream itself. And in my opinion, some things that could be really unique for the program and really highlight the important things, important values of UNESCO, the program, politicians behind the program have tried to, as I said, mainstream the program and to be a sort of good example of sustainable development. But there are so many good examples of sustainable development in the world. Yesterday's presentations and visits to the city show that not necessarily the Biosphere Reserve is a good example of sustainable development planning. So I think that the program of Biosphere Reserves should try, and if you establish a Biosphere Reserve, I would like to, encourage you personally to try to find the really valuable things which are different from others. And in my opinion, one thing which is important, to put it simply, why do we have this type of landscape and this type of people here? It is because for thousands of years you have lived here, you have used your nature in the specific way, you have created your knowledge, you have created your tools, you have created your economies, because this is your environment and your ecosystem, and your cultural diversity, your cultural values are here in many cases because of your nature. So if we go to, take an example, let's go to Estonia, Estonian islands. There are slight differences from Finnish case because our landscape, our natural background is different and our skills and knowledge is different. If we go to the deserts, we get another cultural situation because deserts are different. So in my opinion, what is the most important aspect of the program is that local culture and its knowledge and how clever people are to live in this place is because they are from here. And this makes it very local and at the same time very global and very valuable for the future solutions. So, what happened to the program of the MAB through 45 years of its existence? Again, is that it started as purely scientific program. The words like global monitoring or scientific research on sites, it was very important in the beginning of the program. It gradually, through these decades, shifted to be a program of sites of good sustainable development examples. And I think this is the right way. It is good that the program shifted from the pure scientific to more holistic approach. One important thing to emphasize is that there should be no biosphere reserve without local population. When the program started, there were established biosphere reserves, scientific ones. No people, just research. Today it is not possible. Such biosphere reserves who don't have local population, they are denominated. So every year the International Coordinating Council is looking through the list, and some countries themselves, like Great Britain, has given good initiative to take out the biosphere reserves which have no population. So there must be local population who lives there. Biosphere reserves are a very flexible, and also organization is very flexible, as Katja already emphasized. And I told this in the very beginning, just to repeat, that I think that even that it is not possible to find two similar biosphere reserves in their organization, what is important is that they all emphasize the connection between their home ecosystem and their home culture. So this is a focus of a biosphere reserve. Why it is important also, not just for fun or for tourists to see how people in Finnish Lake make sauna and go fishing. It is also because nowadays when we speak about global change and adaptation to the changes, I'm sure that there is a deep knowledge on how to live in this ecosystem, and to bring out this knowledge into the solutions of when the changes occur in the environment. The knowledge is there. You don't need to make special science. You just ask in a clever way people how to manage your nature. So the program MAB created a new strategy in 2015. If you go deeper to the program and if you start looking about the MAB program, you will notice that there is a Seville strategy. There is a special strategy, which is a holy book of biosphere reserves. It's called Seville strategy. It is from 1995, I suppose. And now the new strategy is made, but it is not cancelling the Seville strategy. This is just a document for next decade. And there are 5 strategic objectives, which I just highlighted here in red to show you the framework of the program for next 10 years. Yes, conservation of biodiversity is there, and it is important because the purpose is to conserve the natural values, of course. But at the same time, the program is building societies, economies, human settlements in harmony with the biosphere reserve, with biosphere. As this is a scientific program and scientific organization, then the task is to develop the science and education and specific type of science which is sustainability science, to research how to be and how to arrange sustainable development. And as I told you already, to support mitigation and adaptation in the changes. That's the, how to say, the operational purpose of the strategy. And there are A, B, C, D, five areas of action for the program. One is that the program declares that we, the biosphere reserves, we are models for sustainable development. Here I want to tell you one thing. As Björn first day told that we tell some secret, which we afterwards regret a lot. So I tell you, I tell you now one secret about myself is that I'm a conservative and fundamentalistic person in the program, and I'm not very sure that cities can be models for sustainable development. So if the city is within the biosphere reserve as a part of it, it would be very interesting solutions. I also would looking very much forward to see how this will be here when the cities are the parts of it. But I know that there has been strong political movement within the program to make a city as a biosphere reserve. Even the city of Rome wanted to become a biosphere reserve. Fortunately, it didn't work out because I just simply don't understand technically how a city can be sustainable. It is, I think the city by definition is not sustainable. It uses a lot of resources outside of cities. So biosphere reserves, go back, are models for sustainable development, but I suppose that they are models for more rural situations, not for urban situations. The second area of actions is about collaboration and networking. This was very well described by Katja already. The third thing, which is a very valuable thing, is that there is a world network of biosphere reserves. We are not alone. We belong to close to 700 similar partners, and the knowledge is huge, and the partnerships give new values. Of course, from this point of view of networking, we also speak about information and data sharing and making people knowledgeable. And the last thing, in my opinion, which is very important, and I asked also the first day about how the Kangas area would be governed in the future when it is such a nice concept. The same problem with biosphere reserves. Concept is nice, but how to manage it, how to govern, how to put up the governance, this is a big question, and for example, not solved in Estonia. I think you will have the presentation, so I just put here 2 links to the MAB strategy itself and to the action plan, which is very big and long document. You can look at it separately. So now I come to Estonia to tell about our experience in this, everything what I can talk so nicely but not implement in reality, is that first there is an official logo for biosphere reserves. Of course, biosphere reserves can create their own logos, but if not, then there is possibility to use such prepared one by UNESCO. And the Estonian slogan for the biosphere reserve is "The island and the sea, safeguarded environment." And such logo is today placed in Estonia at every entrance, because we are also archipelago biosphere reserve at the ferry routes and the airports and in the yacht harbors. We have this sign to inform that you are entering the UNESCO designation area. The Biosphere Reserve itself in Estonia is quite big. You see all the western islands are included in it. And I'm pretty sure that 90% of population is not aware of the fact that they live in the UNESCO designated Biosphere Reserve area. This is a big challenge always, I'm sure, and in our case also, that people do not understand it and do not know it. And we have not been good enough to explain it through the many, many years. Just some facts about the Biosphere Reserve in Estonia. It was established in 1990. It is 15,000 square kilometers, and 4,000 of this is on land and more than 10 on the sea. And the population all over is about 40,000 people. Now, to coming to the conclusion, what are our important experiences from Estonia from these years? One is that the key issue is the governance, how to manage it. When in Estonia the Biosphere Reserve was established, it was an office of the Ministry of the Environment. There were more than 15 people working there, 15. Huge office with three centers, with research, with publishing, with a newspaper, with different programs running. One day everything was cut after 12 years of very good work, and the government made a proposal that let's shift this to the NGOs. So for many years NGOs were just running the Biosphere Reserve, which was very difficult. No finances, no strong backbone. In 2009, the Biosphere Reserve was included into a law in Estonia, and in a very good way. There is a law of sustainable development existing in Estonia, and just one paragraph of the law is saying that there are biosphere reserves which are sites for sustainable development. So after this, one person got job as a coordinator, and until today there is, for this huge territory, one person working as a coordinator, and she's doing great work, but it's quite difficult for her to cover all the territory and water with the program. So step by step she's trying to do her work well. So another experience is that informing public is never sufficient enough because people don't listen. Am I already now? I just give you one example. It was many years ago, the Minister of Environment came to our island, to the village meeting, to tell people that establishing some plans of environmental ministry is putting no restriction on people. He was talking for 2 hours about that there will be no restriction. There will be no restriction. And after 2 hours, 2 local ladies went out of the village house, and one said to another, somebody heard, "Now we cannot go to our forest even." So that was message they wanted to hear, and they heard, but it was nothing said like this. And importance of local partnerships is very clearly visible in Estonia. If we look at different levels, then at the national level, at the political national level, there is very little interest in having a biosphere reserve and the program. Even that we have a national program, and the area is called program area, and we have a booklet which is a program for biosphere reserve, which is accepted, and it should work as a national program, there is very little interest at the governmental and at the parliament political level. There is some interest at the level of regional governments. Regional governments somehow feel the importance of being a UNESCO nomination area. And fortunately, there is quite big interest at the grassroots level, at the level of NGOs and businesses who really want to work with the concept. And this is something that now is growing more and more. The new just projects applied by local small-scale entrepreneurs to be a biosphere reserve project. And the last thing, which is a problematic and I think should be solved for sure when establishing a new biosphere reserve, is the scientific involvement. We in Estonia have not been able to make scientists interested in the biosphere reserve topic. The scientists like to watch birds, to look at forest developments or dynamics. They like to have geological research within our territory. But when I tell them, look, the biosphere reserve itself is a scientific problem, then that's something they are not interested. Maybe because it's not paid. So these are the main things I wanted to emphasize from Estonia. And now, finally, what are the major benefits for having a biosphere reserve? I think these are only two, but they are really important. One is that the territory is recognized by UNESCO, by a very important international organization. This is big value. And the other thing is that we can participate in the network of strong and clever and people of similar thinking all over the world, almost 700 of biosphere reserves. And this is a really big value. We are not alone. We can always have advice. So I wish a big success to local initiatives in establishing this fascinating area. Thank you.
Thank you, Toomas. I actually had also the same thing that, I mean, you, with this initiative, you are actually looking for a UN label and recognition. So this is one thing, and then the global network also. So this is also to put the Lake Päijänne and this region on the map. But also one more thing that you brought up here, more in the beginning, where you actually emphasized the importance of being different and bring up the local values you have here in Jyväskylä region. And then I had this kind of local smart people branding would be definitely, I think, an important part of your concept. That when you brought up that why you are here, why you have been here, why you're working here, why you're living here. So I mean, know that the people here in Jyväskylä region are smart and so on. So this was really good. So I thought quite clear, strong signals. Well, now we are turning more into the local situation and the business interest of having this type of branding of the region. And Hannu Koponen from the Regional Council of Central Finland is here to talk about your ideas and perspectives, and really look forward to this. Floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. It's been actually very interesting morning for me. So I very much agree with Toomas about the previous presentations and how good and educative they have been, at least for me. And it's been also very nice to hear that all three presentations were talking about similar kind of ideas we've been discussing here about the local community involvement, about the importance of the grassroots level participation. But simultaneously, Toomas, I have to say that I a little bit disagree with you about the sustainability of the city's ideas. I do understand your perspective, but the environmental scientist inside me shouts and screams to say that we need to solve also the problems in the cities, that where the majority of the people on the national level or on the global level live. So we need to create also sustainable cities. Also the cooperation, co-creation. You heard about the Kangas area yesterday. So these kind of ideas, if you could transfer them into the biosphere actions, into the more larger scale, I think that could be a start of a success story. Okay, now I will introduce myself. After a short monologue. I'm Hannu Koponen. I work for the Regional Council of Central Finland. I've been working there for 9 years. My background is in environmental sciences, working mainly topics related to climate change mitigation and adaptation. And for the past three years, I've been working as a development manager in the theme of bioeconomy. Perhaps one thing I have learned is that everything's problematic when you put a word bio in it. Then it starts to be complicated. People do have their very own ideas. What does it mean? How it should be done? What Katja, you said about the conservation areas, I think. The problems about the conflicts. I would love to hear more about how you solve, or your ideas, how they have solved these conflicts in the Swedish example. I have to also admit that my title here will definitely win the most cryptic title during this session. And instead of talking about the regional development and economic perspective on biosphere initiatives, I will shortly introduce you the ideas Regional Council as author in responsible for regional development and regional land use planning will have related to this Päijänne area and perhaps a little bit in a larger scale on the central Finland area. Welcome to Central Finland. Central Finland is approximately 5% in area of Finland. We have approximately 5% inhabitants of Finland. We are very, very keen on bioeconomy. The bioeconomy is actually one of the strengths in our S3 strategy, is one of the strengths in our regional strategy, and it's not just strategy language. We are really good when it comes to the bioeconomy. We have long traditions in forestry, and we have very, very good future coming when it comes to our forest industry and in the bioeconomy in general. We are also learning more and more about the circular economy. We have very good starts in different fields of circular economy. Of course, when it comes to circular economy in Finland, majority of the circular economy is related to bioeconomy as well. Bioeconomy plays very, very important role on our regional economy, on import, on employment, and also when it comes to the amount of business, about amount of companies. We are also good in renewable energy. Okay, on Finnish scale, we are good. On European level, we are excellent. At the moment, the renewable energy, mainly from forest-based biomass, accounts approximately 30% of the total energy consumption in the region. According to quite reliable scenarios, in 2020 we are up to 60% in renewable energy. So we are doing very, very fast transition now towards more fossil-free central Finland. Okay. Päivi will tell you after the coffee break more about Päijänne area. So I will not go into the details of what the heck is Päijänne. Majority of you sailed it yesterday, so you already have some experience. Okay, the fact is that there is an European level boost in bioeconomy. So we would be extremely stupid if we wouldn't take that into account when we are thinking about our regional development. At the moment, Päijänne and in general our blue bioeconomy or blue bioeconomy does not have very much success stories to say. We have recognized the potential of our lake reservoirs. We have actually, Päijänne is of course the biggest lake in the region, but we also have other lake areas here. I think approximately 18% of the total area of central Finland is covered by lakes. 84% of the land area is covered by forests. So when you look outside, you look something very, very unique from central Finland's perspective. You see inhabitation. Päijänne, as you said in the previous presentations, these biosphere actions, they should rely on the history of the region. They should have connection to the cultural characters of the region, but they should be also some kind of laboratories for something new, for something we have not created yet. So how to actually unlock this potential, something old, something new? How to actually harmonize the different interests? There are a lot of different interest groups, as you have said in the previous presentations, who are living, working, having their leisure time in this area. How to actually, and who are owning property in this area, how to actually combine all these different interests. So one of our ideas is that we need some kind of common vision. And perhaps one of these visions or the seed for these visions could be the regional plan. Here is actually a very, very unclear picture of our regional land use plan, which is at the moment under revision. And here is Päijänne Lake, and here are all these activities we have identified to be part of this Päijänne Lake area. So there is the whole Päijänne Lake area is now identified as an area for tourism and recreation, so the whole area. On the other hand, there are several national parks. There is a national park and several natural areas and other land, nature protection areas in Päijänne Lake or nearby the Päijänne Lake. There are identified areas for housing and leisure time housing here and there. By the way, Jyväskylä is here, so Päijänne goes south from Jyväskylä. There's also, when you go south, most southern part of central Finland, there are these culturally valuable areas. And also there's these valuable areas for landscape. So Päijänne has a lot to offer, and perhaps it is, as said in the previous presentations, we don't see it. We are too close here to actually see the beauty of our own nature. Okay. Päijänne Lake could provide well-being of the citizens, well-being of the environment, and also well-being of the economics. But we need to be honest also when it comes to these kind of initiatives. There are possibilities for conflicts. There are several different interest groups who are working around the area who have different kind of interests. So this kind of harmonization must be taken very, very seriously. We should not only go and come out with our brilliant ideas, but we should start from the very, very grassroots level in order to create this cooperation and co-creation ideas. And hopefully this, well, after the little bit shorter coffee break, you will discuss in the small groups about these ideas also, how to harmonize different interests. What was said already earlier was this fear of regulation. When it comes to the word bio, there is a large group of people who immediately see it, okay, it's regulation. So when you are promoting the Biosphere initiative, you should be very, very loud and clear what does it mean. And I'm afraid that it's a message you will not get through with only saying it once, but you need to repeat it and repeat it and repeat. Also the educative part, not in the biosphere, but also on the route towards the biosphere areas. Of course, since regional council is responsible for this regional development, we are also very, very keen on these rural areas and the development in the rural areas. And I don't see very much conflicts here, to be honest. Biosphere action, as it best, could work for the more dense areas, the tourism ideas, but also the rural areas could benefit from these kind of initiatives. What I said that the blue economy is not very high on agenda in central Finland yet. This is actually, I talked with the person responsible for tourism-related issues at the regional council, and Lena, she unfortunately quite agreed on what I wrote in this presentation, so that we have this potential when it comes to the tourism and lakes, and tourism and especially Päijänne Lake, but we haven't unlocked it yet. There are these small businesses who are quite distributed and not very much knowing from each other. There are good examples, projects who are working to get these different businesses closer together to offer different kind of tourism packages, but it's still in the very, very early stage. There are also these, I mean, when we are showing pictures, we are about our precious areas. There's almost always summer. But you need to remember that also in these latitudes, the wintertime and the wintertime leisure activities are actually quite potential. Winter is exotic, perhaps not for us here, but for majority, it's exotic. So there is also this possibility for all year round tourism, all year round activities around the lake or on the lake. A good example is actually here, for example. If you look outside during the coffee break, you see this bay. Laura, what's the name of this bay? Help me. Jyväsjärvi Bay. Around this, outside here, there is, during the winter time, there is a nice ice skating ring from late December till March, end of March, and there's actually a lot of people doing that. And it's only, what, less than 10 years old innovation that, hey, we should actually perhaps do something outside the city area or near the city area with the lakes during the winter times. And it's very, very popular. So these kind of cheap innovations should exist also in order to guarantee the all year round possibilities of this tourism in biosphere areas or elsewhere. 7 minutes over time. So I hope that during the coffee break you will have some questions, but otherwise, thank you.
Thank you very much, Hannu. This was really a brilliant presentation about the potentials you have here in the region, and a couple of things that you brought up here was actually what I also said previously, then to identify your own, top values that you have here, and then also discussed about the communication, how important it is. And here I think that what we discussed yesterday and what we have been discussing previously is to simplify it by showing examples. And remember now the examples you have from the archipelago region and from Koli, Eastern Finland, or from Karlskrona and so on. These simple examples are perhaps the best way to communicate something that you actually intend to do. But now we are going into the coffee break, and the coffee break here means that we are having a artisan food, delicious, or delicacies. So it's not only coffee break, and this is a signal for those who are following us on the streaming here and didn't have the opportunity to come this time to Jyväskylä. All these delicacies are now from central Finland and from Jyväskylä region and the upcoming biosphere area. So enjoy the coffee break a lot. Thank you for the morning session.